about, or I hinted at the other day that I'd watched the first two Terminator movies. Now I'd seen these back in the day. I just rewatched them recently. Um, the first Terminator I had watched over and over as a child in the 80s. But I realized when I was watching this Blu-ray I had, I realized that and you don't think about this when you're a child growing up in the 80s. You just, you do what you've got. And what I was watching was a videotaped recording we had done of the television broadcast of the Terminator, obviously heavily edited for television, right? And so I was watching the Terminator and I'm like, I don't remember Linda Hamilton's boobs being in this movie, or I don't remember, this scene or that, and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's because I was watching the TV edit over and over growing up. And it was really cool to watch for the first time, the full uncut film, So that was great. And Terminator 2, Terminator 2 is a funny story. This came out when I was like 11 or 12, 11, I think. No, maybe 12. I don't know. One right around there. I was born in 79, so 11 and 12, whatever. I saw this once in the theaters and liked it, enjoyed it quite a bit. I never really saw it again and didn't think too much or talk much about it again because of sheer adolescent jealousy. One, I was jealous of, oh shoot, what's his name? I just talked about him in Brain Scan, the actor's name. I can't Edward, whatever his name is. I keep wanting to say Norton. It's obviously not Edward Norton. The kid. Anyway, Furlong. One, I was jealous of him because every girl in my school just thought he was the hottest thing ever. So I was like, stupid Edward Furlong, And then I was jealous of Danny Cooksey, who is in the movie as well as his friend, John Connor's friend for a time there. And Danny Cooksey is the guy with the red hair, the sort of the red hair mullet or whatever in the movie. You guys might remember him as the actor from Salute Your Shorts on Nickelodeon back in the day. I think he was on Growing Pains before that or whatever as a young child. What I knew him from, though, I knew him from Salute Your Shorts and all that too. But he was in a band about the same time that this was going on, maybe shortly after Terminator 2 or shortly before it or something like that. He was in a band called Bad for Good. It was the letter or the number 4. So bad, number 4, good. And he was like a little bit older than me, a year or two older than me. And he was in this hard rock band that was really freaking good. And it was other kids, our age. I was so jealous of them because I wanted to be in a band, I wanted to be a rock star and stuff like that. And they didn't really last beyond one album, I don't think. Steve Vai, the legendary Steve Vai, great guitarist, was the one that kind of discovered the guitarist, I think, and what a prodigy of a guitarist he was, and put the band together. And they're all still doing stuff today. I think the bassist and drummer sort of switched instruments at some point and are doing more sort of, I don't know, something else. But the guitarist is doing some amazing stuff right now with an electronic musician, a programmer, but he's still playing the guitar. It's great. And of course, Danny Cooksey, I don't know if he's still acting. He does the con circuit. I've seen him do some like country-ish music, which obviously I'm not too much into. But anyway, I liked, so I was jealous. So I didn't watch or talk about T2 much at that point. So the Terminator movies, every time you hear about the Terminator movies, mainly what you hear people talk about is Sarah Connor, the mother, right? I mean, and this is an important part of the story. In the first movie, the Terminator is sent back to kill Sarah Connor because she will give birth to John Connor, and she will be the mother that teaches him all these skills, leadership skills, survival skills, and whatnot, and how important she is to him, and obviously for him being born, but also for shaping him into the type of man he's going to be. And then, of course, everyone talks about her in T2 because in T2 she becomes the badass survivalist, able to do all these skills and whatnot. And that's important. I mean, she deserves her role as that. But I think people woefully, they leave it unexplored or they don't mention it enough. But the Terminator 1 and 2 movies they have such an important message about the importance of fatherhood. Because you think in Terminator 1, Sarah Connor isn't anything at that point. She's not. I mean, she's a badass by part 2, of course, obviously, but she's just a waitress. She doesn't have any skills. She's just a good person, but she never thought about being a mother. She even laments, to Kyle when he's telling her that she's going to be all these things. She's like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that at all. She's terrified. She's at the, she's totally dependent on Kyle to protect her. And the importance of the father being Kyle is kind of a twisted story, but in a way, sort of an interesting take on it, because John had to get to know his father before he was his father in the future, and then send him back to the past to sleep with his mother and be his father, but then he's going to die in the past. And it's interesting because the father is inspired by the son, who's inspired by the mother, who was inspired by the father. You know, it's this neat little circle, but it emphasizes the importance, like the symbiotic, not symbiotic, but the dependency that each relationship has upon the other to function correctly. And we see, Kyle's not a father in the sense that he's got, the baby John is born and he's right there for him and everything, but he exhibits that importance of fatherhood in loving and honoring the mother and protecting at all costs. Even when he's in the future and we see his flashbacks of memory when he was still in the future, protecting, fighting for the human race and whatnot. And that's a really important theme that's really developed by the time we get to Terminator 2, because in Terminator 2, you've got the T whatever 300, 2000 or whatever, it's a number, so I'm not going to remember it, but whatever model number Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator is, you've got that one sent back, but reprogrammed to protect John Connor at all costs. And in T2, Sarah Connor's not a great mother. Now, part of her journey in the movie is learning that she has to be a good mother. She can't just keep putting the weight of this, the future on John. And, she needs to teach him all these things, but she also has to be an emotionally present mother for him. That's part of her journey. But one of the reflections that she has during the film is she's watching John teach the Terminator how to give a high five or a fist bump or something down low and all this kind of stuff. And she realizes that she talks about all these men that she's been with in the past who've never actually stuck around and been there for John. And she said, this robot is really the perfect father for him because it's utterly devoted. It's going to protect him at all costs, body and sustenance wise. It's going to provide for him. It's going to do everything it can for him. And it's a story about John Connor really finding a present father figure for the first time, which is why the only thing I don't like about T2 is that spoiler, but the T2, has to go in the end. He says, you got to take me out because I have one of those processors too that we don't want people developing. I think that was a wrong move to make. I get it, but I think it was the wrong move to make because the movie set up the importance of John having this father figure. And even though the T, what'd you say, T500, 800 or whatever? It's a number. I just saw it in the chat and I can't remember it again. T500 or 800, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, even though he's sacrificing himself for John, he's still abandoning him again. It's like another father figure come and gone. So I didn't like that at the end. But it just struck me that these movies that are always harped on and talked about, is the strong mother figure and all this kind of stuff. Sarah Connor's more the phallic woman than she is a heroine archetype. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, because the phallic woman's a legitimate and an important archetype as well. And yes, her journey is learning to become a better mother. But I think the importance of father figures are a big part of those movies.